Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to BOS Selectmen's meeting for Monday, December 30th, 2013, in the high school media room at 5 p.m. We're running a couple minutes late because we weren't sure if we were broadcasting, so we are now. So, Board of Selectmen, application for change of manager of all alcohol restaurant, 99 restaurant located at 4 Fisher Street, to Ronald M. Lima, Jr. Is that how you pronounce it, sir? Lima?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, 10 past 5, we'll be doing the town council Racino agreement. 5:25 p.m., oh, sorry. After that, we'll be doing action, and then after that, 5:25 p.m. roughly, we'll be going to executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiation with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, Boyd and Library, Highway, Water, and the fire. Okay. Lorraine, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ronald, would you like to come forward, please? Just have a seat right there. Welcome.
How you doing?
Good, yourself?
Good, very good.
Sorry to drag you in here on the 30th, but we're
That's
trying
all
to
right.
get this done for you. And we weren't sure if you were going to come in the first meeting or not. Typically, with somebody,
Yeah, there was a little miscommunication on time and place, and I just didn't get the right day, and I missed it.
that's fine. The board just likes usually, give you a little meet and greet and just say
Right.
hi and welcome and all that. So
Okay.
I'll turn it over to the clerk, John. Any questions?
None for me. I looked it over. It's complete.
Lorraine?
That looks fine.
Jeannie?
Looks fine to me.
James?
Yeah, no issues with this at all. Thank
See that?
That was
Quick
easy.
and simple. I'll entertain a motion then.
Okay, I move that we accept Ronald M. Lima Jr. as the new manager on the license at the 99 restaurant on Fisher Street in Foxborough.
Second.
Any more discussion? All-
Just under discussion,
Yeah.
just not to make things look so easy, but I go in there a lot. I haven't seen you. Have you been working there for a while?
Yeah, I've been there for about 12 weeks now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think if you've, a lot of times, people in front of us for violations or sting operations and stuff, and we do take it pretty seriously. So
Yeah.
I'm sure we have a patent speech at this point, but, if there's violations, underage, underage over serving, it's, bottom line, it's not looked favorable.
I completely
And I'm sure you've
understand.
gone through all the
I've
training
gone
and
through
everything that's
all
in
the
this packet,
training,
so.
yes.
Okay. Any more discussion? All's in favor? Good luck.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Have
much.
a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay. Counsel, would you like to come up with the,
Do you all have copies of the
Do
agreement?
you have a spare one? My printer didn't work.
This
I got one, but it just
Did this
came
get sent around to them? I'm not sure I saw it.
as an email.
There's emails.
Oh, was it last week?
Yeah.
I didn't see it.
you just,
Anybody else? These are- Anybody else?
I don't think I saw it yet. Thank you.
just electronically, right? I will. Just for the record, I was emailed last week by somebody who said, I heard the board reached an agreement, and I had responded to that email saying, no, we haven't, because we've not convened as a board. So, here we are now. So, yes,
Mark, if appropriate, is there a spare copy of that for the public? Thank you very much, Dick, I appreciate it. Dick, do you have one more? Thank you. Thank you.
okay. Dick, would you like to?
Yeah, sure, thank you. What I presented to you by email last week and what's in front of you now is an agreement that is acceptable to Penn National and has my recommendation. It's the result of maybe half a dozen meetings that Alex and I had, and a result of the comments that reflects the comments, with one exception, that the board made when I met with you 2 weeks ago. So I'll go through the agreement. and tell you what it does contain, what it does not contain. Just as background, because of the gaming legislation, we're technically in an arbitration phase right now before the Gaming Commission. That's solely because the deadlines in the statute have been reached as of about a week ago. It's technically an arbitration. However, should the board vote to approve this agreement tonight, there'll be no arbitration. We'll notify the Gaming Commission tomorrow, and there'll be no need for arbitration. So, one of the things, to start off with the front page, one of the things that the agreement does not contain is a statement on behalf of the board that by entering into this agreement, you in any way approve of the project or the nature of the project. That, while that's in many other agreements, it's not in this agreement. So there's no expression by the town that you approve of slot machines or gaming. We've provided for mitigation in three different ways. The first is for those verifiable costs related to the project due to social impact, social harm, due to problem gambling and crime, driving under and criminal effects. If either of those occur, we have established an escrow fund of $250,000 that will be funded at the time the project is up and is in operation. At the first, when it first operates, we'll fund they'll fund a $250,000 escrow. The escrow will be held jointly between the town manager, because I didn't want the honor, and somebody from Penn National. The escrow is set up for those two issues, okay? And if during the first 2 years we can identify either social harms or a criminal activity or driving under that's as a result of the project, then those the costs of the town to deal with those issues will be paid for first from Gaming Commission funds if they're available. If they're not available, then from other grants if those are available. But if either of those are not readily available, the cost of those will be reimbursed from the escrow fund. The escrow fund then gets replenished if it's used. If during the first 2 years we haven't identified any costs attributable to either of those issues or any of those issues, then, and this is important, then only the escrow goes away. But the obligation to reimburse the town to mitigate for costs associated with problem gambling, crime, driving under, or in fact anything else, those never go away. So just because the escrow disappears doesn't mean that if in year 5, to take an example provided by one of the members, or in year 10, or in any year that the project is operating, if that's when it first manifests itself or repeats itself, if there's a problem at the beginning and it stops for a number of years but comes back, Penn National remains obligated to compensate or mitigate the town for those costs. But the escrow, so that's how the escrow works, and it's limited to those two issues. The next two issues are dealt with a little bit differently, and that's water and traffic. And what we're doing with water and traffic is there's a baseline identification when the project starts. There's a look back after a year, see what's happened. If there's harm to the town that needs to be mitigated, Penn National is responsible for that, but not the escrow fund. The escrow fund is limited to those other two. So that's how those 4 issues are handled. You did ask that we, I think it was you, Jenny, that asked that we would specifically identify the other issues. There are 2 other issues that were in the Racino Committee report that are not specifically identified in this agreement. So to that extent, we've not complied. But I will tell you that the 2 are what's the impact of the project? What if it causes a decrease in home values, housing values, home equity, I think is the way it was referred to in the Racino Committee. I mean, the simple answer to that is that home equity values, tying diminution in those to the project is frankly not going to be possible. You all know, home values are dependent upon supply and demand, market conditions, interest rates, so many other variables. I don't think we'd ever be able to prove that there's been a general increase or decrease in home values tied to this. I think that's not going to happen. If we could, I mean, if we can do that, it's still compensable. It's still something that we haven't given up. The same with school enrollment. That's an easier one to show. And simply because it's not identified in here does not mean that we cannot seek mitigation for that. All right, so that's how those 6 areas that the Racino Committee identified, how we dealt with them in this agreement. The agreement also provides that my modest and all too low fees are paid for by the Gaming Commission and not by the town. So I'm sure you're pleased about that. There are, if you look in paragraph 5, there are what's called offsetting benefits, but basically they'll hold a job fair here. They'll try to give preferential treatment to qualified Foxborough residents for hiring. They'll try to use qualified Foxborough company vendors for the project. They'll do some cross-marketing with other businesses and try to mitigate non-compete with other businesses. Paragraph 6 is the traffic, which I've explained to you. 7 is the water. Beginning with paragraph 8 is sort of what I call boilerplate provisions, but they'll support, they intend to support a variety of charities. These are more precatory, and by that I mean expressions of intent from here forward, 8 forward, as opposed to the mandatory obligations contained in paragraph 4, which is the one that sets up the fund. So I recommend that you authorize the chairman to sign it. I'm prepared to vote. Of course, I'll ask any questions that you have.
John?
Dick, you mentioned setting a baseline for water and traffic.
Yep.
How does one set a baseline for social impact?
Baseline for social impacts? What the baseline is going to be.
The reason I asked this is you had mentioned before that it's, there are going to be other establishments happening within the region. Therefore, how can it be said that Plain Ridge was the cause of the social impact? So how do you set a baseline, just so that you can say, it was once this and now it's this, and therefore here's the mitigation funds that are due? How do you do that?
Let me take a shot at it first. I think what you have to do is you're going to have a human services person, who, by the way, I talk with and approves of these timetables. If somebody comes to them and says, or manifests a gaming problem, a gambling problem, what's the cause of it? That's a fair question, and I go to Plain Ridge. Or I mostly go to Plain Ridge. I was fine, except now I got a slot parlor 5 miles from here. That's the answer. It's a person's testimony about why they're having the problem.
But if they say, I go to Plain Ridge, I play the state lottery, I go to Foxwoods,
Yeah.
I don't think problem gamblers are going to just go to one location. How do you determine mitigation?
Yeah,
Clearly, that establishment had an impact, perhaps not 100% impact.
it doesn't have
But
to
if it
be.
doesn't, I'm just asking how you do it, because there's always, well, I disagree, and then it hangs in limbo until whenever. In other words, there's no black and white recipe for determining the impact.
No, there isn't. But there is not a black and white recipe. I think the answer is based on the testimony and the statements of those persons that are having problems. And if they're having a problem in part because of Plain Ridge, I think that's compensable. But you're right. It's not. It's all fact determined.
Right,
Based
but do I, Human Services have reliable baseline data on the traffic that they're presently getting.
Well, they do now.
Do they have that, Bob?
I mean, they can create that now.
People that go and use their services?
Yeah, in other
Yeah.
words, if I said, how many people have come to you over the last 3 years with problem gambling issues, would they have that?
Sure.
Okay.
I know when I spoke to Vicky, they don't particularly deal with problem gambling. They refer them out to other counselors or what have you, but they would have a history of, who they deal with on a regular basis.
Well, what about the private entities, say the discretionary fund, someone goes to them and says, I have no money for fuel because, now, they're not obligated to disclose that information to social services, right? So there could be another layer of problems that aren't even being reported to the town.
Yeah, and this agreement does not seek to address anything other than governmental funds, town funds, not, it does not address what private charities, how they may be impacted by this project. This agreement doesn't address that. I don't know that how we could. Not, as town council, I can't do agreement for benefit of private entity.
Would it be legal, according to the agreement, to, like, for the town to encourage those private entities, if they do come across someone, to say, counsel them to
Sure.
go to social services in town?
You don't need this agreement to do that, Jenny, you can do that.
But you can't make an agreement to require them to do that because they're not a party to the agreement.
Right, but it might be, you might want to send like a notice that if you come across this, please, are you, they could contact the town. You don't want to force them, but you also want to make it available because we want those statistics if there are any,
You still got the ball, Jim.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. The amount of $250,000, that was your first offer a few weeks ago?
No, our offer was $100,000.
Okay.
Your town council's offer was $250,000.
Okay.
We
And of all
acquiesced.
the other surrounding communities, I believe we're the last to,
You are the last.
okay, and is that number consistent through all other communities?
No, it is not. None of the other communities have an escrow account set up. You are the only one that has it. So the other one's a zero.
Okay. Thank you.
Lorraine?
Just a question about the housing values. I'm just curious, I think if there was going to be a trend in changes of housing values that, it happens across the board, if you saw potentially a different change in a certain section of the town that could be potentially attributed to proximity to Plainville, I think it's possible to look at.
I wouldn't want to have the burden of trying to prove that in court, but you're right, but who knows?
It could be
why.
it's going down 5% across the town, but in one particular section, it's down 8.
It's possible, Lorraine, but it could be due to a lot of other reasons. Who knows? Bad part of town, good part of town.
Bad neighbors.
Bad neighbors on that side of town. Yeah.
I mean, it'd have to be a more of a landslide effect. I mean, it would have to be something that was dramatic.
I mean, to be clear, Lorraine, if what you say is provable, we are entitled to seek damages for that.
If everybody,
I'm just telling you, I think it's going to be hard to prove that.
it wouldn't be hard to prove it if it dropped by 50%, and
No,
I mean,
of course
that's
not.
what I'm saying. I mean, if it was a landslide situation, I think it would stand out like a sore thumb.
The other question I have is related to page 3 in the Human Services section. And I think it's along the lines of what Ginny was talking about, how we might start to see impacts bubbling in different places. Like, for example, schools may have an impact at a social level that would not necessarily go directly to Human Services, but they perhaps would be trying to deal with that internally with social workers, that, this paragraph wouldn't address that situation?
This paragraph does not address that, but paragraph 6, paragraph 4, 4, Roman numeral 6, does address that. It addresses anything else that might occur that's harmful to the town that we can seek compensation for.
And in that same paragraph, 6, on page 4, actually, we talked about first, beginning at 30 days after the commencement of operations, and then here it talks about looking at the second, if at the second anniversary of the commencement of operations, we don't receive funds, then the escrow account will be terminated.
Yes.
Why would we do that?
So two things would happen. If at the end of the second anniversary, there's been no evidence of any harm, we terminate the escrow because they should get their money back. It doesn't, again, terminate the right to damages. Okay? Second
So-
thing, even if there are damages occurring and there's a payment to the escrow fund, while the escrow's terminated, the payments due from Penn National are not terminated. You don't need the escrow anymore, they're paying it. I mean, if there's you're protected at that point by the fact that it's operating, this is an agreement filed with the Gaming Commission. If they default, then you have recourse. You don't need, you've established a patent payment, you no longer need an escrow.
Okay. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to have it like at the 3rd anniversary instead of the 2nd, just to give it time to,
You can, but I don't think there's a reason to do that. We've established at that point what the need is. If they're paying it out of the escrow or they're paying it directly. I don't foresee a problem getting them to meet the obligations under this agreement, which is to pay us if we can demonstrate that we're incurring costs because of their project, with or without the escrow, at that point in
yeah,
time.
I guess I'm just seeing that the process might take a little longer than 2 years.
Well, it will,
you
but
know?
that's my point, Jenny. I'm sorry, Lorraine, that it may. I mean, I've heard that from a number of people. It may take 6 years, it may take 10 years. Let me point out that the absence of the escrow agreement does not diminish their obligations to mitigate the harm that that's causing to the town.
Okay. On paragraph 2, page 3, it talks about on the 1st and 2nd anniversaries of the commencement of operations that we would determine those impacts to human services. So does that mean, like, if at 6 months there's an impact,
Yeah,
do you have to wait till that anniversary to actually be
it-
compensated for
yeah,
that?
we could in the interim do that. There's no obligation under this that we do that. But say we're 8 months out and we see there's a problem, we need to do something about it. While we'll be reimbursed for that, by the time you get it set up and hired and in the flow, we may have to front it, but I don't think that will happen. I think that what would happen is if we went to them and said, here's a demonstrable, clearly, I don't know why they'd want to wait to pay it.
So then I would just want to strike that, the anniversaries.
I mean, I would urge you not to seek to change the agreement. We're in the arbitration period. It doesn't, I don't think it's necessary to change the agreement. I told you what I think will happen, what would happen. Exchange letters on that, we can do that without changing the agreement, yes? That's fine, we can just exchange letters on it.
All set with me?
No, I think I had a couple more. The offsetting benefits, how do you do that? How do you implement these things, and how are other surrounding communities offer the same offsetting benefits?
Yes, they are. We define the local area as being the town of Plainville plus the 4 surrounding communities that, we designated. Those are the ones that we're going to be giving preferential treatment to for hiring, for vendors. Those are the ones we're going to be holding job fairs in. We're going to be working with you and your body to, help coordinate that. Honestly, this is something we do everywhere anyway. Here, we're just sort of memorializing this in a surrounding community agreement.
Okay, thank you. I think I have one more, but I'll wait.
Okay. Ginny?
Yeah, I
Thank you.
was concerned about only the 2 years for the escrow account, but you clarified that. What if we find out that down the road, 5, 6 years from now, I mean, we really do have social problems that we can attribute to gambling problems, and the town has to hire another social worker? Is that part of your mitigation, or is that just a cost the town has to bear?
That is part of the mitigation, if it's
Mitigation.
attributable to the project, yes.
Okay, and we would just have to show that there is a need in town from our perspective, and that would, or do you have to?
Well,
do you have to okay it?
No, we have to okay it. We have to agree with it. If we don't agree with it, then it goes to arbitration. I believe that's how it's set up in
Okay.
there.
So that's
Or it goes to,
Okay.
right, so
But
if,
first it goes to, first of all, we say, look, this is what's happening, and this is our evidence of it. If they agree, they pay it, comes out of the escrow order. If the escrow doesn't exist, they pay it. If they don't agree, we then seek a third-party neutral to arbitrate it. If that doesn't work, we go to formal arbitration in Boston.
Yeah, okay. And I was happy that you did look into the water issue. That was really a concern of mine.
Thank you for your help, Ginny. It was
And,
always helpful.
No, but I appreciate that.
no problem.
I'll say.
James?
Dick, thank you and Alex for going back and forth. Sometimes, as a board, obviously, we're not negotiating, we're not at the table, but I understand you guys had a bunch of meetings, and you were updating us with drafts. Reading through the agreement that's in front of us, it looks, having read the other towns' agreements, it's a little bit of pull from their agreements, which is good. And it was, from what I heard at the table, all or in part of most of the stuff that we had brought up was brought in, and it shows up in here.
Thank you.
It does provide regardless of the number of fund for mechanisms, but also be clear that what we're saying, if we agree, then Penn National pays on the mitigation. There's actually 2 steps. They're not the first fund. We have to go to the state, solicit from the state money for that mitigation. If they say no, then we go to grants or outside parties for that money. And if they say no, or if we're not successful, then we come back to Penn National. And if it survives the arbitration, then we get paid. If not, then we go into court. So it's not as quick.
Well, Jim, arbitration is in lieu of court. It's final and binding.
Correct. So if everyone's in agreement and we don't get anywhere with the state, don't get anywhere with private funds and grants, then we come back to Penn National. So it's a multi-step process, so it's not as quick as an agreement and writing a check. I also was concerned for the 2 years, and then it goes away, and we went back and forth today that it doesn't go away. I would have liked to see something a little bit more than 2 years, for the reason being, I also spoke to Human Resources, and there's a concern that the people that are impacted are not necessarily going to, they don't go now, they might not go to Human Resources. So if someone's in financial problems, it'll take years for them to, if they go to the town. And to be clear, I'm looking at mitigation. If people choose to gamble and they lose 10, 20,000 or their house or whatever, that's not the town's problem as far as mitigation. It's when it comes to the town and we're funding staff and Human Resources to deal with that. Is that your understanding of this agreement for mitigation?
Yes, sir.
So if someone loses 10,000, it doesn't go to mitigation, and you get 10,000 back. But if we're hiring staff
That's right.
in addressing, things on that level, that's going to affect the town. That's where the mitigation comes from.
That's correct.
I was happy to see the issues like DUI and human recess, the checks and balances in there. And it's kind of the, chicken and the egg, is there going to be impact? The state certainly thinks there's going to be impact. That's why they have that separate fund set up, all the studies that I've seen. But until it's there, you don't know how much. So this puts the onus back on the town. So if there is mitigation required, we've got to prove it, go through the steps rather than just writing a check. And in all fairness, I think that is the way to go. Traffic, I know Mark was a concern on Spruce Street, but Miramichi and Route 106 is addressed in there. And I like the way that was addressed, that there's going to be a traffic study before it opens, and this is what we talked about at the first meeting, rather than studying it after the fact, get the baseline before it opens. And you had mentioned it a year after, but it's 30 days after you do the second traffic study, and then you compare it, which I think is a good time because it's still new and fresh, and people are going to be probably going there more in the first 30 days than they were a year out. So I like to see that in there. The other stuff that is in there with respect to preference for Foxborough labor and contractors seems to match the other towns. The non-compete with Foxborough entertainment venues, I saw that in there from Mansfield for the Great Woods, and I would assume that would be whatever live entertainment, and the only thing I could think of is Patriots Place, that they're not competing in the same venue.
We'll make sure they don't compete with Splitsville.
Or Splitsville.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware, and I don't know what Splitsville is,
You don't want to know.
but I'm sure I'll find out at some point. Our plans, we are going to have a lounge for about 120 seats. The live entertainment will be there will be no cover charge. It'll be free acts.
Mhm.
So when we talk about, I think one other town had a concern. Well, what about other restaurants that have local acts and stuff? We'll work with them, but we're not agreeing to not compete because it's just the local entertainment we're providing there. Yeah, but in terms of like Patriot Place or anything else that has real major events, that's something we obviously do
Yep.
agree to not compete with.
Okay. In the section that quantifies and qualifies the water consumption on the baseline, it wasn't a huge concern of mine, but it was brought up with the board, and it was good to see that was addressed at some level in there, in the charities and the civic organizations. So it's got the bits and pieces from what you heard at the table and Dick brought back. And I've spent some time, I've spoken to town managers and other selectmen in other towns, and I think, not to speak for them, I think we're all kind of in the same boat. We'll leave it at that. I like the fact that there's nothing in here that says we endorse the slots or we condone that development. I think everyone's got to deal with that in their own conscience. But going forward, if and when this is approved, this seems to give us some good standing, a little bit more than the other towns, of some pushback if there's mitigation needed. But there is a lot of work from the town to quantify it and qualify it and bring it forward. So it's not a quick process by any means.
It's almost like you need a full-time person working for the town right away just to oversee all this mitigation. I mean, how else do you do it?
Well, those are questions. I mean, when you track it, you have to start tracking it proactively. You can't go 4 years out and say, oh, let's recover all the data and do it reactively. So now it's a burden that's going to be placed on our human services departments to begin to track on day one. It's another task that they have to achieve. And they have to figure out how to do it.
Per se, Dick, my coming together with these thoughts here, if the town decides that they need to hire somebody part-time or full-time just to monitor this whole process, is that mitigation?
It wouldn't be covered by the escrow agreement,
No.
but yeah, that's a cost incurred directly and verifiably attributable to the project. In my opinion, it's covered under 4.6.
Alex, you agree?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess Mark, we're being a little circular, though. If you just decide we need to hire somebody to track all this, I don't think that qualifies, to be honest. But if you start seeing calls coming in and things that your current staff cannot track, and you say, we're getting inundated with calls, we do need somebody, even part-time, to track it, then I think it would be covered.
I think the police part, I don't know this, but I imagine they keep records anyways, the chief does, and
Right.
so that's fairly easy to track, I would imagine.
So on that note, if the way that the agreement reads, if it's attributed to Penn National, so someone gets stopped on Spruce Street or 107 or any time, and they say, "Well, I was just drinking," the time and effort from the police and any any labor that we have to go in to investigate that and deal with it or fix the road or whatever happens from that one incident, is that trackable? And then we call up Penn National and say, according to section
Yeah, I
5?
mean, yes, I don't think you do it incident for incident, you accumulate several and
Mhm.
get the cost out, and, yeah, but that's what it's intended to cover.
To the extent that it requires your police department to add staff, even if it's just to add one officer to deal with what you believe will be the, or if it does come to fruition, an increase in the level of DUIs, then that's it. But if there's one new incident a year, obviously that's not, I'm taking another example, that's obviously not something you need to beef up your staff for, and so we're not going to be compensating for that one incident.
Right.
Yes.
Basically, it's a nice agreement to revisit.
Well,
I mean,
I
that's,
mean, they all are, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it,
Well, Dick, I'm on the same, I'm concerned about the workability of this agreement. It all sounds good, but when it actually comes time to putting it into practice and actually measuring the impact on the town, it's not easy to do that. So you wonder, are we going to, say we do measure it, and then we present it to Penn National, and they say, well, we disagree. Then it costs the town money, time, and effort to go through a formal process to,
Okay, but-
and actually, we're gonna have the same problem with the state.
yeah,
It's just that
I'm
it's-
not sure about that, but let me take the easier example, which is driving under, okay? We know how many police personnel we need now for driving under incidents. If the chief, looks at it and determines we need to hire a part-time or 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day officer because we now see driving under right near the project and where have you been, what have you been doing, is the question. I don't think that's that hard to demonstrate. He keeps those records.
Those are more
Those-
black and white. as
Those
we
are
go
more
back
black.
to-
But social, I mean,
It's the wide expanse of gray that's almost unquantifiable. The impact on the schools, the impact on, people's houses, their ability to pay mortgages. Like Jim said, that could take 6 years to manifest itself.
okay, but to be clear, John, the verifiable impact on housing, I think, is going to be very difficult to demonstrate, but if you can, they're responsible for it. I don't disagree with you at all that that's a very cumbersome and difficult matter.
No, I'm
to
not talking
prove.
about property values. I'm talking about how does one measure social impacts in a 2-year period.
Well, the way we're measuring it in the agreement is if there's an increased cost to our Human Services Department because of the project. And I would think that Debbie would be able to, Cindy, would be able to measure that. She knows how many people she needs now. She knows how many personnel hours she spends now. If that goes up and people say it's because I've been over at Plain Ridge, then we can verify it. It's not, I mean,
It's not human nature to instantly run to a town's human
no, it
resources
isn't,
department.
but that's a timing issue.
People who have problems like that generally don't talk about them.
No, I get it, but at one point, well, if they don't seek help through our Human Services, there's nothing this agreement does for them, to be clear, okay? It doesn't. It's only those persons who do have problems because of Plain Ridge and seek our help that we can get mitigation for.
There's a, this is paragraph 2 on section 3, and it says, compulsive gaming directly and verifiably as a result of their patronage at the project. That still has me somewhat concerned, is that people will be frequenting a number of different locations, including the state lottery.
But
And in every instance, Penn National can say, oh, geez, they may have come to our establishment once, but there's no way to directly and verifiably attribute their problem gaming to us.
yeah, it doesn't say solely.
Pretty darn close.
No, it doesn't, John. It says verifiably, so it has to be one of the causes of their problem has to be this project.
Well,
I
see,
just think the whole concept is so nebulous that it's going to be unworkable.
and I agree with you, John. I think everybody in this board would probably agree with you, but I don't think the way this has come about, that there's any choice. I don't think there's no foolproof plan. and everything's gonna be work in progress, and I think it's a mountain you can't climb. I agree. I think we're all trying to do what's right here, and at the end, it's just gonna cause more, problematic situations down the road, because there is no way of quantifying it.
There isn't, I know.
And I don't think, the only way you could ever quantify something like this is to reach an agreement where, you take all your cards, and you put them on the table and say, you know what, this is what we think is gonna happen. We'll put $250,000 in escrow every year for the town for the rest of our life, just like you did like Patriots Place. And you get mitigation money over for 10 years for the 1.4 million, 140,000, what it was, and you keep pulling on that.
Well, the Racino Committee did that. They said this is what we believe is going to happen. And their numbers are wildly higher than these. So basically, we're accepting a fairly reduced compromise.
Right, in the situation, it's not an annual cost. I mean, there's no way kind of coming to that number, and I don't think it's something that you're gonna reach an agreement with. As you can see, this is above and beyond what every other town has.
I think the point that you're missing is this isn't only 250,000. This is a fund which will be replenished if it's used. So if it's not used, which everybody hopes it's not, because there aren't any verifiable costs associated with the business being there, that's great. But if there is, it's a replenishable number. And as Dick said, if they get to the point where they're already paying, they've recognized that there's a problem and they're taking care of it, then the escrow is not needed because they're paying.
Yeah, I mean, from my I appreciate your concerns, but to be clear, from our perspective, if the first year you show that, look, the number of DUIs, the number of crimes, attributable to Plain Ridge, and the number of social worker, human resources calls that you're getting requires, 3 new police officers and 3 new human services workers, and that costs $400,000 a year, then we pay $400,000 a year. And we'll pay that the next year then. And we'll pay that the next year. That's what we're agreeing to.
John, I respectfully, I disagree. I think it
again,
is
we don't
easier.
need to go over it again. But the thing is,
I think it's,
I'm just imagining what our first engagement will be when we have numbers and we engage Penn National or we engage the state, what the pushback at that point is going to be.
well, unfortunately, John, when it comes to problem gambling and it comes to, there's usually other issues that come with gambling, as in alcohol or drugs or both, and typically it ends in suicide. It doesn't end in someone going to a counselor or trying, in my experience.
My experience as well, and I agree with you.
So it's,
While this has set up a pathway to measure going through our town's human resources and police department, I think it's unlikely that most people who are having problems will pursue that path.
it's
If I may add something, this is kind of a tangent here, but I did want to at least put this on the record. We're a member of the American Gaming Association. We have a very thorough and exhaustive responsible gaming program that all of our key employees are trained on. This is something that we also take very seriously. You guys obviously take it seriously, and as well you should. But this is something that we take very seriously as well. Those are not the customers that we're looking for. We're not looking for the people that are going to lose their house, and ruin their lives over gaming. We provide an entertainment that, in our opinion, 99% of the people handle just fine. Okay? For the other 1%, we are there to provide solutions for that, whether it's referring them to the state problem gaming associations, whether it'll be working with your local human resources, your human services workers. There's a lot of solutions on that, and we do this everywhere. So it's a problem that, for what it's worth, we take very seriously as well.
in conclusion, I really don't think, I think we can beat it to death. You're gonna reach much of a better agreement than this.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
If Penn National is sold, if the gaming entity at Plain Ridge is sold, does this agreement go with the new owners of Plainridge? Will it be assigned to the?
Yeah, it's part of the project, so yeah, this agreement is bound on the project and us as the parents, whether Penn National is sold or if we sell Plainridge Racecourse for some reason, this agreement does go with it.
Okay. Thank you.
But I'll defer to the
Yes.
legal counsel here
Yeah,
for
that's paragraph 7 of, Roman numeral 7 of 8. 8 Roman numeral 7.
Lorraine had the question first, John.
I had my last question on paragraph 6, the assessment and mitigation of traffic impacts. Paragraph 2, parties each acknowledge and agree that there are other developments in and around subject intersections currently being developed and permitted, retail, residential, et cetera, not associated with SF gaming. How is that determined? Because my natural thought is that anything that's being built up is related to SF gaming coming into place, because there will be more demands or more opportunity for retail development, things like that.
What will be associated with in the future?
Yeah, I believe there's an
I mean,
apartment
you get a
complex
traffic
being
count
built right
today.
now.
And then they're gonna revisit the traffic count down the road. And if you get, what's the trick, is it 6 or 8%? I forget, didn't we bring this up in a meeting of
It's not in this. The thresholds, you
the
mean?
thresholds with,
Yeah, this will be up to the traffic engineers. We have to jointly select the traffic consultant to study this, so, we can't just pick our guy.
I mean,
You
it's from the day they open on, if there's other associated entertainment facilities built around it, as in just, not gambling, but other, venues that are piggybacking that area, I imagine it would all be part of the same traffic count. It's gonna be a traffic count. And absolutely, they're right. You're gonna get more traffic from when the increase from Target, you're gonna get more traffic from that. I mean, it's not a huge concern of mine. I just think you'll see, right off the bat, you're gonna see. If it's gonna be a big problem, you're gonna see a big problem. And if you got people racing up and down the road, in a hurry, or the impact would be highly noticeable. It was when Target was built, and Lowe's, it was very visual, and it wasn't thought of then, only because it wasn't a gaming facility. I think that's the only reason why it wasn't brought up then. And now it's being brought up because it is a gaming facility, and I understand that. So we'll just measure it as it goes, and I don't think it's going to be a huge concern.
I'm just raising it. It concerns me.
No, I agree, but we'll do the traffic count. If it goes up by 10 or 12%, it's going to be an issue.
Right,
You know?
it's gonna be up to the traffic consultants to figure that out. They're gonna figure out the baseline study before we open, then see what the increased traffic is after. And yeah, if there's an apartment complex that opens up across the street, they'll have to do their best to determine, well, how many of those cars are as a result of that, how many are a result of our facility. And obviously, we're gonna mitigate for the impacts that we cause.
So Alex, is this on a traditional traffic study, you do a baseline study and you're doing this before it opens, so you get your original counts, and then you look at the projected traffic from a development, and then you look to see if there's going to be any impact. But this is a little different. You're saying you're going to do a baseline, and then 30 days you're going to do another one, and where does a level of service A, B, C, and D come into on that? What would trigger improvement?
That's up to the traffic consultants. We don't want to bring them in. Just to be clear, we did have a traditional traffic study done,
On Plainville, though. I think Plainville looked at
well,
the intersections.
we had one done. I mean, you have to for MIPA.
Okay.
To go through
yeah.
the MIPA process, and we're going through all that now, and we had it done. We had, I'll jump in here, but I believe 94% of our traffic coming right off 495.
It's actually about 84%. We're permitted for 1,600 right now. It'll be an additional, it brings up to about 7,500 vehicle trips per day.
Per day, okay.
Yeah,
So-
almost all the traffic was coming right off 495.
So the
as we would
remaining,
expect.
the remaining traffic that wasn't originated from Route 1 and 495, the ones that would be coming from 106 and the back roads, that the difference in percentage during the ENF or the MIPA. Did they have any intersections in level of service that they looked at outside of 495 with recommendations?
Don't believe
We went down to,
Could you come up to the table so the people at home could hear you? Bring up a chair, sit down.
we expanded the study down to Thurston Street in this direction, so.
There's on Route 1. Yep.
What is it, Red Rooster, that's
Yep.
Thurston, right?
Yep.
So it went there, and it went out to 152 and 106.
Okay, so nothing in the opposite direction? on
To
past
George
Miramichi.
Street.
George Street's in the opposite, but going towards Foxborough.
Towards Foxborough, Thurston was as far as we went.
Yeah, but that's Thurston and Route 1, right?
Correct.
So other than the interstates, the Route 1 and 495, I'm concerned about Spruce, which Miramichi, that small bridge.
Yep.
That's in Plainville, so I'm sure Plainville, I'm
That
hoping
was
they
on the
addressed it.
study.
Okay.
So, I mean,
So
you
past,
can take Miramichi, kind of leads to that. So.
okay, so, but past the Plainville border, once Miramichi goes over that bridge,
Correct.
then it turns into Foxborough
Foxborough.
by the campgrounds. Did the ENF or the MIPA look at any of those trips down there?
I'm not sure if it went down there. I know Miramichi at least was.
Yep.
So that's essentially part of that traffic. You know, you had to originate
But
from
also,
somewhere.
Jim, we can look at that. I mean, that's covered by this agreement, so the
Yeah,
initial
but,
study
yeah.
that this does, we'll look at those
So,
bases.
so
and then
what the agreement says, we're gonna hire a traffic consultant to look at it before it opens and then 30 days after.
They're gonna do.
So if the traffic consultant that we choose says there's an increase of X based on this, where does the mitigation come in? So say if there's 30 extra trips in an hour, so what? Is it 50 or is it 100?
Well, yeah,
Since it's not a traditional traffic study with thresholds for level of service improvements, they're gonna give us data, and then who determines what you do with that data?
Well, again, that's up to the traffic consultants. They're not just giving us data; they're making recommendations as well. So you can still have that level of service inclusion come afterwards just as easily, right? If they say, okay, this was a CLOS, and now it's going to a DLOS, so you need to do this to bring it back to a C. Again, we're going to be following
Okay.
their recommendations.
So who writes that RFP? We're both picking the traffic consultant?
We find somebody that we mutually agree on.
Okay, in the scope that goes into that
The scope is
study?
based out here.
Scopes defined.
And when the study is done, if there are impacts that require design or implementation changes, they have to do them.
Okay, all right, thank you.
But, yeah, and Jim, for what it's worth, this was a concern for a lot of the communities, and this is the same solution we had with all the others as well. So we're going to be, everybody's always very concerned about traffic, so we're going to be looking at that everywhere.
Okay, thank you.
One more.
Go ahead, John.
Dick, you had said that you advised against modifying this agreement as it's presently written. But I think you said, I wanted to clarify that should something or topic come up that was unforeseen that this board believes should be in this agreement, could that be an addendum or a letter to file?
Could we amend the agreement, go forward? Is that your
You can do
question?
that at any time.
Yes, if the
Okay.
parties agree to amend it, but yes.
Okay. So in other words, this is sort of always open for discussion.
Yes, but, well, yes, but an amendment would require the agreement of both parties.
Of course.
Yeah, yes,
All right.
sure.
If I don't have a calculator, my math is correct, it means if 84% of the cars are coming off 495, that only leaves 75 cars a day coming from the side roads.
It's very little. It's
Yeah.
very, very minimal.
So, if my math is right, and it's kind of tough going backwards here, but, so it just, we'll have to see. I think we're beating it too far now. I think it's time to move on, as far as traffic goes anyways. Any more discussion? I think it's
Well, I've given you.
a giant step from where we started, when me and James first met with Alex. I think it's the best that we're gonna be able to ask for the community, with above what the state legislature was already doing. Does anybody not agree to sign this? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll move to approve and enter into the surrounding community agreement between the town of Foxborough and Springfield Gaming and Redevelopment LLC dated December 30th, 2013, in the form presented by Town Council, and to authorize the Chairman of the Board of Selectmen to execute such agreement and any other documents necessary to accomplish the foregoing on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mark,
Thank you very much.
there's 2 execution copies, if you could just sign those. And signed by Penn National. Thank you.
Two. I don't have that copy in front of me that you're looking for me to sign.
John,
No, this was Mark to sign.
Well,
Alex, I just had a question. This is a new process for the state of Massachusetts with gaming. Is this far different from all the other states that you've been dealing with?
Yes.
Oh, yeah? Right here, Dick?
Yeah.
This is unprecedented.
Chairman?
Often getting
One.
standard gaming, you don't even need to have it be a host permit. So,
Well, thank you.
thank you guys very much. Are you guys breaking right now, or are you still?
Well, we still got a lot more to do.
We got an hour. Oh,
Do you need
hopefully
something?
not. Friday.
If you don't have time for this,
Yeah, will we ask me now, Alex?
put out a press release that we did for the other towns.
Mhm.
And so at the end, they were just put out, if you're okay with that.
That's fine.
is it one of these?
Thank you very much.
Good luck. Okay, let's move on to action. John, this is your spotlight.
Okay, under action items number 1, these are the minutes from November 12th, 2013, November 26th, 2013, and December 3rd, 2013. And I'll move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Any discussion?
I just have one on
To Paul?
November 26th. Page 6.
November 12th or the 26th?
26.
I had a question on the 12th.
You want to go first, Jim?
Yeah, let's do the
Do
12
12
first.
So this is more of a question. On page 3, talking, this is the,
Thank
Is
you.
it-
Have a nice holiday.
Take care.
Thank you, Dick. The paragraph where it says, Police Chief O'Leary noted that Showcase Live last year was asked not to file an appeal from the results of the hearing and asked if that could be a condition. I don't remember him asking us if we could make that a
The
condition.
12th on page 3, James?
Yeah,
Police Chief Willie noted
Yep.
the Showcase Live last year was asked not to file an appeal from the result of a hearing and asked if it could be.
so I just don't remember him asking us to do that, but on 2 paragraphs down, it says a motion was issued. A motion to issue the letter of reprimand to Gillette Stadium in regards to the sale of liquor to 2 minors with an agreement that there be no appeal was made by Gray and seconded by Brew. So we made a motion that to send a letter with an agreement. We can do that all day long up here, but did they agree?
That
They
was
did.
brought up as a suggestion, and I agree, it wasn't Chief O'Leary.
No,
Okay.
it was Mark.
I think it was Mark, right?
Yeah, I just don't think Chief would direct us to put that condition in there. But then, when we made that motion for the agreement, are we basically agreeing amongst the 5 that they won't appeal it? That just doesn't sound like that's what happened, or that we
No.
can do that.
No, that is how it happened. But there was a suggestion that we
We
make it
just
as a
give that.
condition that they would not appeal.
Yeah, and by
I think
just
that was your
giving the
suggestion.
letter,
So saying if they appeal, then our motion is null and void?
the appeal, our whole vote is null and void unless it's approved by the ABCC, upheld, I should say.
They can appeal.
They can appeal.
You can't.
Yeah.
We
I mean,
can't, we
just-
can't
it's-
force them not to
It
appeal.
just seems like we made an agreement that they won't appeal, and that doesn't sound
Well,
right.
typically, we do, we'll make an agreement on a violation that if we agreed for the lesser of the 2, and just a letter on the file instead of a suspension that they would agree not to appeal.
That's what I'm getting at,
Yeah.
that they agreed not to appeal.
They did. They
Because that's
did.
not in here at all. What
Yeah.
is in here is we made a motion that they won't appeal,
Yep.
and that just doesn't sound right. So if we can change it based on, at least put something on the discussion that they agreed not to appeal.
Okay.
Right? Do you understand that, Diane, on the?
Yep.
So that wouldn't be in the motion, that would be in the paragraph before that.
Okay. Anything else on the 12th, anybody? Okay, go to the 26th, Lorraine.
26th on page 6, under the abuse reporting policy update. Into third paragraph, it said, Ms. Brew doesn't think they should wait a year to make it a permanent committee. I think I was saying that we shouldn't wait a year to
Review.
institute policies in the recreation department. Does anybody remember?
I remember you talking about that.
So, can we just amend that to say Ms. Brew doesn't think they should wait a year to institute policies in the recreation department?
Is that okay with everybody?
All right,
Yep.
thanks.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah, one other item on page 3.
The 26th?
Yeah, still on the 26th, paragraph 4. Jim had made a motion that me and you, Mark, would go up and meet with the craft organization to negotiate a compromise on Splitsville. And then I amended that motion to say that we would go up there and have discussions. And my amendment to the motion isn't in there.
Yeah, actually, I went back, because I had that same note. I made the motion to meet with Splitsville to get a better understanding, and then,
Well, your language was
Yeah.
to work out a compromise on Splitsville.
yeah, and then you had said, that, well, not to make a decision, but for discussion. And then I said, yeah, we're saying the same thing for discussion. So I changed that on the same paragraph, fourth paragraph down, which says with a recommendation, and then I inserted for discussion to reconsider the vote. So it wasn't, you weren't meeting with them and coming back with a recommendation to reconsider. You were coming back for discussion, for reconsideration.
Yeah, but I amended the motion to say we're simply going up there to talk.
I
I
went back
didn't-
and looked at the tapes,
Oh.
because this was bothering me. There was no motion, there
Yeah,
was
I
no
didn't have time
amendment.
last week to look at it, but my memory's pretty good. I will go back and look at the
Yeah,
tapes.
because
But I wouldn't
I
mind
looked
hold-
at it this afternoon.
Wanna hold
and there was
that?
no-
Wanna hold.
Yeah, hold it.
All right, so hold the 26th. All right, so we're gonna approve the 12th. John, is that what you wanna do now? Because you had made a
Yeah,
motion.
I've actually got a motion for all three, but I'll make them separate.
So one other comment on this before we get past it. It's a small thing, but on page 5, and this is going back to the Maya discussions.
Okay,
Seventh paragraph down in the last sentence, it says, this is when we were talking about granting the waiver. In the last sentence, it says, "He," meaning me, "feels it is a good concession." What I felt was a good if we could change where it says, he feels it is a good concession, he feels the reduced charge from $255 to $147 is a good concession.
was a concession or compromise, James? It does, not that it matters much.
I guess, well, they conceded because they went down from what they had last time, but
Okay.
either way.
And I just, on these items, on these notes, Meyer is M-I-A-A, not M-I-I, because you don't want to get confused with the insurance, especially where there's a line that says you're dealing with the craft organization, so I don't want that confused.
Okay, so, John, you have a motion for the 26th and the 3rd of December?
Well, we still have to go through the third, any changes to that.
Well, you would strike in your
Well, I was
first
just gonna do the
motion.
12 separately.
I can just go for the 20, you want to do the 26th, you said you want to approve. Hold the 12. I
No, we're
thought.
holding the 26th.
Hold on the 26th.
Okay.
We get I'll move that we approve the minutes of November 12th as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, I'll also move that we accept the minutes of December 3rd as submitted.
Discussion?
Yeah, one item on page 2. This was adopting the residential factor of 9.67329. The last sentence, the motion carried 4-1 with Mr. Gray voting against the motion. That was Jim, actually.
Jim voted
Yeah,
against it, yep.
that was my only change.
Okay. That was seconded by you, Lorraine, I take it? Okay. All those in favor? 5-0.
And John, just not to prolong the 26th, so we don't have to come back, just so we're saying this, I think we're saying the same thing. I made the motion, and you, what are you saying that's different?
You made a motion, and I want to get the language exactly right, because you made the motion that Mark and I were going to go up there to work out a compromise, and you did use the word compromise, on the topic of Splitsville. And I said, I want to amend the motion to say that Mark and I are going to go up to have discussions with the craft organization. And I want to double check, because I believe I said on a number of topics. One thing that was on my mind at the time was the topic of communication, which we did discuss. Just general communications, and then the conversation naturally gravitated to Splitsville. But there was no preset agenda.
Okay, I think, because I remember you making the motion and the amendment for discussion.
Yeah, I just want to get it absolutely right.
Yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, second item. Kristen A. Hovey, who's presently a full voting member of the Foxborough Historical Commission, has asked if she can abdicate her full voting membership and actually become, so I can get this right,
Associate.
an associate member as of November 22nd, and I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
5-0. Okay, and then we're back to Lakeview. Any kind of,
Actually, I needed some clarification. I thought we already did this.
no, we
We didn't vote on
it.
it. The reason why you didn't vote on it is because you typically don't do early Sunday hours for businesses. But this is a little different. It's part of their license as a dance hall, that they have limited hours. They're only open certain weekends for functions only. And in discussions with Sandra on those unusual events when they are having an early function, they need the liquor service with that, because that's when they book that function. It's not going to happen every time they have a function, but they can't, give you well, this is a list of our functions for the entire year that you need licenses for. And I believe if you look in your packet, there is part of their conditions as a public dance hall license, limitations. Their hours of operation are limited as part of their condition. Saturdays and Sundays are from 10 to 12 and 10 to 12:30 on those particular days. So, in discussions with Sandra, this is just a standard thing for this function hall.
Okay.
That's clarification.
Yep. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve an early 11 o'clock a.m. opening on Saturdays and Sundays for Lakeview Pavilion when they have booked functions that require the early opening.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay.
Item number 4 is D&N Corporation, Green Valley Steakhouse, and Dimitri's. They're requesting New Year's Eve extended hours. I'll move that we allow Dimitri's to remain open until 2 o'clock on, actually, it is January 1st, 2014, and they will cease alcohol service at 12:30.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? 5-0 again.
Item number 5 is also from D&M Corporation, Green Valley Steakhouse, requesting an 11 o'clock a.m. opening when New England Patriots have home games. I'll move that we approve an early 11 o'clock a.m. opening on Sundays when the New England Patriots have home games that start at 1 o'clock p.m.
Second?
All those in favor? 5-0.
Okay, item number 6 is from Bay Colony Productions, Orpheum Theater, request for a one-day alcohol license on 12/31, which is New Year's Eve. And I'll move that we approve a one-day, this is an all-alcohol license to Bay Colony Productions for their show on New Year's Eve. I believe it's a comedy show.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0.
Can I give them a really quick plug? Because I went to the Three Stooges Film Festival.
Yeah,
over the weekend.
absolutely, go for it.
And it's just nice to have a local, independently owned theater stay in business for so long. It was quite a unique crowd in 2 hours of the Three Stooges. If you haven't seen it, I'd see it next year. It was well worth it.
A show my parents wouldn't let me watch.
Really?
Yeah, my parents.
Oh, we had to sneak it.
Yeah, we did anyway.
We had to sneak
My
it.
parents.
Yeah, my mother's-
Huh? Yeah. I tell you, Bill Cunningham, kudos to him. He runs a good show.
Frank, you're not writing that down, are you?
Every word.
Boys won a prize.
Oh, they went, yeah, they
With
gave
trivia
away,
questions.
yeah.
You did?
My kids, we
Yeah.
make them watch.
Yeah, yeah.
We make them watch, I love it. Okay.
All right, item number
Next.
7 comes from the Conservation Commission, and there's 2 gift acceptances, and I'll read them off. I move that we accept from Oilman Incorporated, 227 Cohasset Street, a donation of their time to pump out and remove an oil tank at the dilapidated house on 87 North Street, valued at $400 in preparation for the fire department's junior firefighters training program. And secondly, a in-kind donation from Laura Brady, 18 Norfolk Avenue, Medway, who has offered to donate a used Maytag refrigerator valued at $300 for the rental house on 120 Spring Street.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay.
Just want to make one note on that. We did use the form that Jenny had proposed, and we will use a form like this going forward. It needs to be adjusted. Already discussed it with Ginny. We're going to put that on the department head meeting, which is we're going to have next week, and then we'll start using it routinely.
Okay, great.
And just, I always forget to do this, but a public thanks to Oilman Inc. and Laura Brady for their donations. Item number 8 is a 2014 Hackney license approval. I move that we approve a 2014 Hackney license to Cheryl L. Christie of 173 East Bacon Street in Plainville, Massachusetts. And this is for Veterans Cab.
And do you know if this is a new one or a renewal? Because it didn't, nothing's checked off.
She's a renewal.
Renewal?
I'm very familiar with that young lady.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right, it's not checked off.
Yeah. Okay, is that a second, Ginny?
Sure, second.
All those in favor? Okay. All right.
I will move that the Board of Selectmen approve a used car dealer's license Class 2 to Springbrook Tire and Auto Clinic, doing business as JBG Enterprises Incorporated.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
This one's kind of interesting. I move that we approve 7 licenses for East Coast Limousine Service, and this is an annual license for each limousine. Strangely enough, it says it's that the Board of Selectmen is hereby granting a limousine 7 times, so I think it means a limousine license.
Yes.
All those in favor? More, John?
And last, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve a 2014 Hackney license for Paul A. Thiebaud, 95 Concord Avenue, Norwood, Massachusetts, and he again drives a Veterans Taxi.
It's a renewal.
It's a renewal, thanks.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, great. All right, I'll take a motion to go into executive session solely to adjourn.
I move that the Board of Selectmen enter into executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. Board and Library, MISA, MFT, AFT, AFL-CIO, Highway and Water, AFS, CME, Fire, IAFF, Local 2252, PFFM.
Bob, should this read with union personnel? It says non-union.
It's the unions, the three
Library's
unions.
non-union, it's all union.
Yeah, the three unions.
It should say union.
It says,
Okay.
says non-union on here.
Yeah.
So,
But I'll amend that motion to read union personnel.
yeah.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call, James?
Yes.
Ginny?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes,
John?
Yes.
Mark, yes, and
to exit.
solely, go ahead,
Go ahead.
To exit solely to adjourn.
thank you.
Mark, I'm not gonna tell you how to do your job, but you might wanna say Happy New Year. You
I
miss
was just
Christmas,
gonna
you
do
miss
it.
Thanksgiving.
I was just gonna do it. See, it's written right here. Jimmy's gonna tell me. No. Happy New Year, everybody.